The Fatiha by itself is enough. This is the last thing I'm sharing. No more breaks, sorry. I just need 10 minutes for this last one. This is the last thing I'm sharing with you about the Fatiha. The ultimate balance. So all of these balances are incredible to me, but this one tops them all, over and above all of them. You know, I want to talk to you about 4 kinds of conflicts. There are 4 kinds of conflicts, wars. 4 kinds of wars, 4 kinds of battles and conflicts. The first battle is between my body and my soul. My heart that wants to turn to Allah, and the heart that wants things from this world. There's a battle inside me. There's a battle inside you too. There's not one of us that does not have this battle. There's a spiritual thirst and there's a material thirst. There's a desire for the beauty of Jannah, but there's also a desire for beauty of this world. You can't fight it. It's there. And there's a conflict between those two. That's the first battle. The second battle is between men and women. Men and women. They have to live with each other, but they also hate each other. It's a love-hate relationship. It's a constant struggle. What are the rights of men? What are the rights of women? If you let women decide what the rights of women are, they will end up oppressing men. If you let men decide what the rights of men are and women are, they will end up oppressing women. It's a constant battle. It's a constant battle. I'll give you an example. You know about divorce court? If the divorce court judge is a man who just went through a divorce and he has a case in front of him, guess what? You better not be a woman in front of him, because you're going to get some... You understand? Because he's biased. At the end of the day, he's a man. And he can't think like a woman. And if the divorce court judge is a woman, and she just went through a divorce, you better not be a man in front of her, because she's going to tear you apart. You understand? We can't help but be who we are. We're limited in our perspective. So there's a conflict, the social conflict between the rights of men and the responsibilities of men, and the rights of women and the responsibilities of women. That's the second conflict. The first conflict was what? What was the first conflict? Body and soul. Second conflict, men and women. Third conflict is between capital and labor. The third conflict is between the boss and the worker. The boss says you should work more and you should get paid less. The employee says I should work less and I should get paid more. They want the opposite things. The boss says you should have more time on and less time off. The employee says I should have more time off and less time on. They're on the opposite, and there's a constant struggle. That's why you have labor rights. That's why you have minimum wage. That's why you have unions. You have these things in the world because there's a conflict between capital and labor. What was the first conflict? Body and soul. Second conflict, man and woman. Third conflict, boss and employee. Last conflict, government and people. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. A government will want more taxes. It will want more authority. It will want more control. And the people will want more freedom. If you let the government decide everything, it'll become a dictatorship. If you let the people decide everything, it'll become chaos. There has to be a balance. You have to balance these things. And finding that balance is what we call the struggle for justice, yes? We call this the struggle for justice. The justice and this is kind of like political justice, right? Finding the balance between government and people, finding the balance between boss and employee, finding the balance between man and woman. Now the thing of it is, in all of these conflicts, who will get to decide what's fair? This is the final miracle of the Fatiha, the final guidance of the Fatiha. At the end of the day, a human being will either be a man or a woman, which means they will think like a man or they will think like a woman. At the end of the day, a person will either be a boss or an employee. So they can only think like a boss or they can only think like an employee. At the end of the day, either someone will be a representative of the government or a representative of the people's perspective. You can't have both perspectives. It's impossible. It's impossible. So this conflict seems never ending. This struggle seems never ending. Allah Azza wa Jal gave us the answer to these eternal, and by the way, inside us, the body and the soul, sometimes your body will win, sometimes your soul will win. And because we become materialistic people, we crush the needs of our soul. And some people say, no, we should be spiritual people. And they become so spiritual, they stop eating correctly, and they start dressing funny, and they start getting weird. And then they think that's spiritual, and that's not spiritual, that's just weird. That's what that is. You have to find a balance between spirituality and living in this world. You know? How do you find that balance? Allah Azza wa Jal told us in this surah one phrase. That is the balance. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path. That doesn't lean towards men and it doesn't lean towards women. That doesn't lean too much towards the soul and doesn't lean too much towards the body. That doesn't lean too much towards capital and doesn't lean too much towards labor. Doesn't lean towards too much government, doesn't lean towards people. Show us the path in the middle so we can live a happy life. Show us that. Subhanallah. Because Allah created my body and He created my soul. And what He created, He cares for both of them. He doesn't hate one or the other. He cares for both of them. He created men and He created women. He created the boss and He created the employee. He created the government and He created the people. So He cares about both of them. And He's the only one who can give us balance. If you follow His principles, we'll find balance. That's the balance humanity is looking for. That's the struggle we're trying to find. Subhanallah. I know time's pretty much up, but okay, last one. I promise, last one. I want to talk to you one more time about al-maghdubi alayhim and ad-dallin. You know the criticism of the Quran of certain Jews, not all Jews, certain Jews, is that they were so intellectual, their hearts became hard. They looked at their religion only as something to study and to look at academically, but it was not a spiritual thing for them at all. Their hearts became hard. On the other side, the Christians are described as a very spiritual people, whose hearts are soft. Their hearts are soft. But the problem with them is a lack of academics. According to the Quran, they don't look at the book the way they should. They don't ask the questions that they should. So you have the scholarly people who become too scholarly and lose their spirituality. And you have the spiritual people who have too much spirituality and lose their intellectual promise. Two problems. Will these two problems happen in the Muslim Ummah? Will you have people that learn a lot? They learn a lot and they know a lot, but they're spiritually empty. They're becoming spiritually empty. And will you have people that are spiritually very concerned but know almost nothing about the deen? Will that happen? Sure. You're going to find the conflict between knowledge, intellectual growth, and spirituality. The Fatiha gives us the balance between knowledge and emotion. Remember I told you Alhamdulillah is both intellectual, both an informative sentence and an emotional one. The Quran constantly throughout itself is a highly academic, intellectual text. And at the same time, it is a highly what? Spiritual text. What other book is going to balance intellectual, philosophical wisdom with spirituality? Which book will do that? Which book can some scholar read and do a PhD on one surah and not be done? And at the same time, a farmer is listening to the same surah and crying in salat. Same surah. Which other book will do that? Which constitution of the world is going to make you cry? You know, subhanallah. The balance between spirituality and intellectualism found inside this one book. Subhanallah. Balance after balance after balance after balance after balance. That is the Fatiha. I pray that I was able to do some justice to the beauties embedded inside this incredible surah. And I pray that you enjoyed yourselves listening today. As I leave you tonight, I know this is a very short trip this time, right? I'm actually flying out tomorrow morning, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity that was offered to us by Muiz and the volunteers and the sponsors for this program. I make dua for all of you for coming and attending. I'm really, really grateful to have this chance to meet all of you. And I know I won't get to say salams to everybody here, but honestly, just pretend that I came over to you and I said salam to you, because I mean it. I really am very grateful for all of you in attendance here tonight. I just briefly wanted to, before I let you go, introduce you to a project that I'm committing myself to completely. Actually, more and more, I'm getting less opportunity to travel because of this one project that I think will benefit Muslims more than me actually traveling. Because I have to make a conscious decision about what I think I can be of most benefit with. And by team and the work that we're trying to do. There are two things we focus on in Bayyinah. We focus on Arabic and we focus on the Quran. Tonight was a little bit about the Quran, right? So I'll just talk to you about the Quran. I personally believe every Muslim should have gone through an explanation of the Quran. But hear me out. Hear me out. I don't expect every Muslim to read the entire translation of the Quran. I don't expect it. I don't even think it's practical. I don't think it's practical because either you'll get bored or confused. You will read an ayah in translation and you're like, what does that mean? Kill them wherever you find them. What does that mean? You know? And you won't find an explanation. And maybe you don't have the wherewithal to read technical tafasir. That's even more expectation from the average Muslim. They're not going to do that. That's not going to happen. Let's be practical. So my personal position on this is the Quran needs to be explained in simple language, not in print first, but in video, in talk. You have to talk it out. That's a lot easier for people to digest. And it should be presented in a way that's not overly academic. It's just the Quran 101 for everybody. Especially paying attention to the parts that are confusing. Like the parts that talk about things that are used by CNN or Fox. The parts that are used, that some people use to say some very horrible things, and they misuse them to say some very terrible things. And you're like, does the Quran really say that? Does it actually talk like that? What does that really mean? And you know what? For most people, they're not going to end up reading something about it. They're just going to stay confused for years about it, unresolved. This was a concern I've had for some time. And to try to address that concern, one of the projects Bayyinah took up was the cover-to-cover project. The idea was to go through a translation of the entire Quran with little explanation, especially longer explanation where it is necessary. You feel like common confusions occur. What is that talking about? Or things like, how come the subject changed all of a sudden? How come the story is only a little bit here and a little bit over there? What is he talking about when he says this about women or that about inheritance? What does that mean? You know, so those are common questions people have. But I wanted to make a resource available for the entire Quran so the average Muslim, there's no hurry. They just listen to 10, 15, 20 minutes of it a day, maybe every other day. And they just kind of keep going slowly through the Quran. And it's a lifelong kind of thing. So you go through it once, you go through it another time, whenever you have time. But it's done on your convenience. And alhamdulillah, that project has come to a conclusion. The recordings are done for the entire Quran, alhamdulillah, the cover-to-cover project, back in Texas. And they've already been put up online. Now this is different from YouTube because on YouTube there's like a little snippet here, little clip there, little piece here, little piece there. But it's not one organized continuum. Right? I wanted it to be like an organized library, so you can just kind of, it becomes an at-home or at your mobile device educational resource. That's what I really wanted it to be. Then after this project, I'll introduce you to only two projects, even though there are more. So that was one project. The second project was, I felt that there are certain themes, there are certain subjects that the Muslims should know about because they are hurting us. For instance, the world is now flooded with indecent images. The world is flooded with indecent video and images online, on TV, in print, etc., etc. And we're exposed to that, our children are exposed to that. You know, it's just inevitable. It's just there. How do we deal with it? It's a problem of our haya, of our shame, right? Of decency. Does the Quran have something to say about this subject? And if it does, what does it have to say? And I'm not just talking about putting a hijab on. I'm saying that shame or shamelessness is a big subject in the Quran. And Allah talked about it way before hijab was even revealed. Hijab was revealed 16 years after the Prophet started his mission. But Allah started talking about shamelessness from the first or second year. So it's a bigger subject than clothing. There's something more there. So I wanted to explore that, meaning thematic studies in the Quran. I personally think, for example, a lot of parents are having a lot of trouble raising their children. Communication problems, anger management, sibling rivalry. These are problems that every family goes through. Does the Quran have advice about this stuff? What about parenting from the Quran's perspective? You know, if we believe in this book, then we believe it has solutions. We asked Allah to guide us, then He'll guide us with parenting. He'll guide us with friendship. He'll guide us in our business dealings. He'll guide us in things that matter in our life. So we should come to the book for that purpose. So I took one of these themes at a time and I started doing a series on them based on the Quran. Each of them. I've only done 2 so far and more are coming. So shame and parenting are done. And they're posted online too. And I want to put this all in one place so that it becomes a convenient resource for you, inshallah ta'ala. And that resource is called Bayyina TV. And I'm hoping tonight, inshallah ta'ala, that you guys check it out. I mean, I can come maybe once in a year, once in 2 years at the most. At the most. That's the best case scenario, right? But I want you to have a relationship with me and me to have a relationship with you based on Quran studies at your convenience throughout the year. That's what I really like to have. And I would like every family to have that kind of access. Because me personally, inshallah, somebody will come along and do a better job. But until that happens, you'll have to deal with me. So I hope you check it out tonight. It's bayyina.tv. That's the URL for it. Bayyina. And bayyina, people don't know how to spell bayyina. People spell it banyan. People spell it banoon. People spell it banyan. So I'm going to spell it out for you. It's Bayyinah. Bayyinah.tv. That's where this resource is. So I hope you check it out. The clip you saw was actually me. That was the third project, actually. I teach my daughter Arabic about 15 minutes a day. And she's not a super genius. So if she can do it, you can do it. That's the point. I record it. I record it at home. I teach her. She makes mistakes. I yank her ears and all kinds of cool things to her. And she learns. Alhamdulillah. We have a lot of fun doing it. But the point is, even if you want to learn Arabic later on, then you can get started on that too on your own time. You know, this is a curriculum I use for my full-time students and I'm using it for my 10-year-olds. So it works. It gets you somewhere. So inshallah ta'ala, you take advantage of that. Bayyina.tv. I thank you so very much for the honor of your presence here tonight. I know that I'm not going to get a chance to meet all of you, but even if I don't, my gracious, warm welcome and salam to you and to your family from myself and all of my team. I know because we are traveling ourselves, I would ask all of you to make dua for not just us, but our families that are missing us at the time. And our kids, our parents, everybody, and that Allah keep them safe. As we travel back, we're going to be making lots and lots of dua for your community, and I pray that you're able to have flourishing lives as Muslims here in Singapore, and that your awareness and knowledge and practice of this deen grows, and that your communities become more and more united and a place where families can really find a love of Islam. That's what it's about at the end of the day. If we can give our families a love of Islam, we're doing something right as a community. So inshallah ta'ala, I make dua that Allah does that for all of you. Thank you so very much for listening tonight. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.